Tech News Weekly is sponsored by Netflix. Watch thousands of TV episodes and movies on your PC, Mac, iPad, iPhone, or TV instantly. All streaming directly to you, saving you time, money, and hassle. For your free 30-day trial, go to netflix.com/GFQ.
Starting Tech News Weekly in 3, 2, 1.
Hey everybody, welcome to Tech News Weekly. I'm Andrew Zarian. I'm joined by Suncast, as I am each and every week. How you doing, Suncast?
Hey Andrew, what's up?
Nothing much. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. It's Friday, so it's been one of those weeks where it's just like, holy crap, it's finally the end of the week. Maybe all this devastation that's been happening this week is finally coming to an end, because it's been one of those weeks where everybody is just like, oh man.
Yeah, it's been a extremely rough week for people who don't know what we're talking about. The Boston Marathon bombing. Now the manhunt is going on where in Boston, and many parts of Boston are
Plus, you also had the rice and lace letters.
The rice and lace.
They arrested somebody
letters
for that, and then they also had that fertilizer plant in Texas blow up, which was another big deal.
Yeah, did you see that story about how they said the second week in April has always been like this weird, like notorious week
I saw
for all
that.
this
Somebody
devastation?
put together like a whole bunch of things, and like there was one in 1947 in Texas City. They were saying that was very similar to what happened in West Texas, where there was like an oil tanker or something filled with fertilizer stuff as well, and it exploded.
Yeah, devastating week, but I spoke about this with Paul on What the Tech. We were discussing how things have changed, and we were kind of doing this comparison with 9/11 as far as how information was being put out there 12 years ago compared to what happened now with the Boston Marathon and the bombing at the Boston Marathon, where there were so many eyewitness accounts of photos and recordings, of video recordings, of audio recordings, of tweets happening, of messages being sent, where the FBI was asking for help from the people, from the eyewitness, from the people that were actually there to see if there's any kind of photos, any kind of video, any kind of things that they remember that they could actually use in tracking down the individuals that were responsible, which now we realize that pretty much it was crowdsourcing that caught these guys, and we're still catching one guy, but it's amazing how the technology has changed and it plays such a huge role in something like this.
And part of it too was just that there was just a national media blitz over this whole thing, where it's like once that picture of the suspects were released, it was only going to be a matter of time before somebody said something or recognized something or whatever, There was just so many people having eyes on those photos that it was just impossible not to ID them.
I mean, even down to the point that we tracked down the younger individual, the younger suspect's Twitter account, and I spent, maybe an hour just going through his tweets, where it's fascinating because in your mind, you have already made the assumption of this person's character and who he is, and you start reading these tweets and you're like, wow, it's so bizarrely normal, the things that he's writing about, where it kind of like changes your entire perception, where things like this would not have happened. You really kind of put the character in a box and you said, this is who he is and this is the character he's in, and you made your assumption. But now we're able to get down to like their everyday things. We're down to the point that this guy's a car nut. The other one that is now deceased, he was a boxer, which really
wanted to be an U.S. Olympian.
Yeah. So you kind of changed,
which is bizarre because the fact that a lot of the times there's such an anti-American rhetoric that goes along with something like this, and to a degree that is true. But the fact that it's still bizarre in the fact that he's still somewhat pro-America, but for some reason he's not.
And he has a Portuguese, or I don't know if that's his current girlfriend. I know the media blocked out the images of the girlfriend, the face, but very attractive blonde girlfriend, and it just very, very bizarre to kind of see into their lives in the way that we're able to see it now, which, 12 years ago, none of this would have been possible. And I think this actually helps the FBI and law enforcement kind of put together, who these people are and what happened and why it happened. So I kind of wanted to talk about that a little bit because it's happening now, and social media is playing such a humongous role in everything we're doing right now. I mean, CNN is streaming their channel currently. NBC is streaming their news channel on their website right now for free, trying to get information out there. Plus all the tweets that are coming in, all the hashtags. It's bizarrely fascinating. That's the only way that I could describe this.
Yeah, I was reading an article I think earlier today, or I think it was on CNN or something like that, where they're saying that in a way, social media helped, but it also hindered in the sense that it helps because you can get so many people's thoughts and manpower in determining and IDing as such, but at the same time, you can also get an overwhelming amount of false and inaccurate information out there.
Oh my God! No, I don't want to do a Java update. Well, that was bizarre. Did you see that? It just said, "Do you want to do a Java update?" So I just wanted to touch on that a little bit because it's playing a huge role and into what we've been doing over the last couple of weeks. And I know many of our viewers are from Boston, and they're going through all of this. Excuse me, allergies are kicking in. So I wanted to touch on that for a couple of minutes and kind of reflect on how technology has changed with 9/11 to this awful event that we went through this week.
Well, 9/11 was, 12 years ago. I mean, technology has come quite a ways in 12 years. And that's just something that comes with over time. I mean, 12 years from now,
John,
imagine where we'll be.
Even down to text messaging and how during I'm going back to how we were communicating in 9/11 because, I'm a New Yorker. I live in New York City. I lived through it. Cell phones weren't working, obviously, but we weren't even texting at that point. Text messaging had not become a popular way of communicating. I had a couple friends from Europe that swore that text messaging was the best way to do it. And in Europe, they all had free text messaging with their prepaid phones. So it hadn't reached here. I remember a lot of people had Nextels, and that was the only way to communicate with each other because all the towers were, cell phone service was destroyed here in New York. So there was no... If there were camera phones, very early days, maybe black and white photos, maybe very small pixeled photos. So the way
I don't think there even were. I mean,
2001. I'm trying to think back if there was a camera phone.
I got my BlackBerry in 2006, and that had a 2-megapixel camera on there that took 320 by 240 resolution pictures, and it was just utter crap.
I remember senior year, I had a camera phone, and it was utterly useless. I mean, it was just really, really awful. So some people may have had it, some people might not have, but even 2001, iPods weren't a thing. The smartphone definitely wasn't what it is now. I mean, the technology has changed so much in the last 12 years in the way that we communicate, where it plays a major, major role in something like this.
Absolutely.
So I just wanted to touch on that a little bit. I do want to go into a big story, and I know, John, I'm sure this is going to be very passionate for you to talk about this, but Microsoft may be bringing back the start button and boot to desktop may be an option in Windows 8.1. Mary Jo Foley, announced some of these leaks and some of these features, and Paul Thurrott kind of confirmed both on What the Tech this week with us. What do you think of this? I want you to go into it because you have been very passionate about your unhappiness with Windows 8. And these are two major factors on why you don't like it.
It's just funny because these are two features that I feel that if they had just included them to begin with, could have avoided some of the big outlash that there was with some of the power users like myself that are more used to the desktop and rather prefer the desktop, and yet they didn't want to give us the option to do that, which I didn't. I still don't understand why they didn't do that because it's just kind of ridiculous. And the fact that I guess I don't even know if this is necessarily related to the fact that there was such a backlash to power users like myself saying that, well, we need these. I mean, it was funny because even when they were doing the developer previews and shortly after with the consumer previews, we had a numerous number of third-party programmers creating these applications to bring back the start menu. You could count right now, there's probably 5 or 6 different programs you can use to get the start menu back right now.
But I mean,
and some of them are probably better than what Microsoft's going to do to begin with.
There were a couple ones that I used that I thought were really cool, but the one computer that we have Windows 8 is Jessica's laptop, so I had it on that and I was playing around with it, and I thought it was really cool, and I removed it actually because I don't want to invest in something that is not genuinely Microsoft, and I'll tell you why. Because if, let's say, Jessica uses this computer for a year, and this is the exact reason, uses the computer for a year, she gets used to using everything like this, and Microsoft adds a start menu or they change the way something works, she's going to have to relearn everything. So I kind of removed the third-party start bar and start menu from her version of Windows 8. I'm actually really happy to hear this. I still, maybe because I haven't used Windows 8 as much as I should have, I still default to going, putting my mouse down to start.
But even in the way that Paul Thurrott describes the way that Microsoft is going to implement this, still kind of bugs me. Because if I remember correctly, he said that all it is going to be a button like you were used to that just takes you back to the Metro interface completely. And I'm kind of
I don't know. I don't know
not
if
happy with that.
I don't know if that's exactly what he meant. I think he meant to your applications. He said it takes you to your applications.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, what I would prefer, and I know this is out there already. I think it was called Modern UI or something like that, where you click the start button and it's actually the start menu. Only it's like a Metro version of it, which to me I think is really cool. And I actually have no problem with that. I kind of prefer this mixed hybrid environment of Metro and the desktop.
You do like it.
I don't understand why for desktop users they can't kind of just mix them both up in a way. And I think that's kind of a best worlds where the power users are going to be happy, but they still get used to this Metro environment where later down the road, perhaps Microsoft works out all the kinks with Windows 8 and its new Metro interface where it works really well on non-touch devices and normal desktops.
Yeah,
because that's what it is right now. And that's my whole problem is they've created this Metro interface where it's completely touch optimized, and that doesn't necessarily work on non-touch devices like a desktop computer.
Yeah, I think and I'm not saying anything that I know personally or anything. This is just what I personally feel. I think an issue that they had faced was that this was incomplete, and they had to leave certain options out, and they had to underdevelop certain features and certain sections of Windows so they could have Metro be ready to be used the way that they intended. Now, my personal belief is that they are eventually going to slowly merge these two things together. Desktop will not be the traditional desktop that we know. I think it'll be more Metroized. And it's a possibility that they're realizing that because the direction and the consumer has spoken. I mean, enterprise has totally ignored Windows 8, and that is not a good thing as far as the evolution of this product goes. When you need to keep enterprise happy, you kind of have to cater to them, and they really.
Enterprise is always going to be slower to adopt than the consumers are.
But let me ask you, so okay, fine, that I give you that. But if they have adopted Windows 7, where are they going to go after that?
Well, look how long it took them to actually adopt Windows 7 versus Windows XP.
But where do they go?
I don't think
that's the problem. Where do they go after that?
That's a good question, and I think Microsoft is going to have to do some more work for Windows 8 to be more acceptable to enterprise businesses.
I mean, I kind of like the fact that it boots into desktop. If that's a feature that's going to be implemented in the next version, that is something that may cause me to install that on a production machine.
Well, it's funny because in a way, there's so much stuff out there in the enterprise world that's based off of Windows XP that you can still get to work in Windows 7, but now that with the introduction of Windows 8 and its Metro interface, it doesn't necessarily work as well as it should, and that's kind of a hindrance to enterprise users, and I think that's kind of the problem. Where in a way they didn't offer a way for businesses to still use their legacy stuff that they've been using, and the fact is, a lot of these legacy software that they use, these creators, these developers don't often update it soon enough for them to even use with Windows 8. It will take them, 5 years before they ever come up with a version of the same software that works with Windows 8.
Yeah. Also, I mean, let's talk about how I adapted, how I adopted Windows 7. I was very excited for Windows 7, and the second that it came out, I installed it on my production machine because, with every generation of Windows, the performance gets a little better. I have not installed it on any of my production machines, especially the switching machine that we have, and I don't know anybody using Windows 8 personally with the software that we're using. When Windows 7 came out, everybody jumped on board to that. So it is not a good sign at all.
I think it's still too buggy with all the stuff that we need to do.
Yeah. I wouldn't risk it. I personally wouldn't risk installing it. But I think 8.1...
It still feels like it's a beta is what it is.
Yeah, listen, I think 8.1 will... It'll make it easy for a lot of people that have held out and said, I'm not installing this. I don't want to go install Windows 8. I don't like it. I think Windows Blue will be more... I don't want to say more stable. I think it's going to be more comforting to people to have a familiar little button on the bottom. I think that plays a major part in it.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's how I feel.
Well, like I said, part of the problem with using Windows 8 on a non-touch device are these tiny little hot corners that you have to use to navigate Windows 8, and it just is not really practical, especially with using a mouse. If you don't have good motor skills, it's going to be harder to begin with. So.
Okay, so let me tell you this though, and I'm gonna kind of talk about the direction of Microsoft has taken over the last couple of years. They have become very quick to respond to issues with software and hardware, and we're seeing this with Microsoft. Saying, okay, you know what, we're going to put Windows on a yearly update cycle where every year you are getting a big update, much like Apple does. With OS 10. They release an update every summer, and it's not a humongous major shift in the operating system, but there are enough changes to make it. You say, okay, you know what? This is the new version of OS 10. I think Microsoft is very smart to do that. Did you see the story? The Wall Street Journal reported that Microsoft is designing a smartwatch to compete with Apple and Google and Samsung.
Yeah, I saw this story, and I'm just thinking, oh, great, another smartwatch.
But I mean, I don't know what to make of this because they have killed their entire, portable MP3 player market. They killed the Zune line, and now they're going to have another device that's very much like what they just killed.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think? Do you think this is...
Well, the whole thing is, I don't see smartwatches as... It's almost like the very early days of tablets. That's kind of what I feel is happening here, is where we have this very early market for smartwatches, but nobody's really done anything great. And we're still waiting for basically the iPad of smartwatches to come along. Yes, we've seen the Pebble smartwatch, but I still don't think that it's something that's up there with the level of changing things the way that the iPad did. When the iPad just completely made a market for tablets out there. And now you actually have a pretty good thriving market for tablets. I don't see that right now for smartwatches at all.
There is no market for smartwatches. I don't wear a watch. I think people wear watches as jewelry now. They don't wear it as timepieces. They don't wear it to tell the time. It's actually a jewelry item. So I don't know how this market would work. Do we need another screen with our phones? I mean, that's really the question.
Do they need to come up with a more innovative way to deliver information like that? Because you do have Google Glasses coming out now, which is kind of, in a way, the same
thing. Yeah.
Same thing as a smartwatch. It's going to be able to deliver information from your phone and do a whole bunch more stuff, more than maybe perhaps what smartwatches are capable of.
Do you think that's going to take off, honestly?
No,
'Cause I
not
know there's
not
a
right
lot
now
of
because I think it's still very early in the technological standpoint. It's like when computers first came out, they were like $5,000 for a computer that had floppy drives and all that stuff. Where now you can get a computer for $400 and it's the best thing ever. I still think it's still early in that technological standpoint where later down the road we may see a whole bunch of stuff like Google Glasses out there.
Yeah, I don't know. I know a lot of people are excited. Like a lot of regular people are excited for it. So it may be one
Yeah.
of those things where people are gonna start walking around with these stupid little glasses on their heads, and then in
Or
20
they'll
years,
come up with something similar to Google Glasses that have similar technology or better technology that just makes it much more easier for people to use and much more cheaper.
yeah. One little last thing I wanted to touch, and probably nobody cares about this, but Microsoft is reportedly looking to revive Heroes, which I just wanted to say that. Probably nobody cares about Heroes, but I really liked
No.
it when it was out. I was a big fan of it. I thought the first season was really good, and then they ruined it because they dumbed it down. And Microsoft seems to be wanting to revive a TV show for Xbox. I think they are going to start having Xbox exclusive content, and this is the first sign that we're going to start seeing. I think it's a good idea for them. I just want to touch on that a little bit. Nobody
Yeah,
cares.
I agree with you. They totally ruined it after the first season. The second season was okay. After that, it just got completely weird and just bizarre the way they
Yeah.
set it up, where they almost kind of shot themselves in the foot with what do we do now?
Yeah.
I don't think it suffered some major plot and writing issues
Well,
where they
after the
just
first
didn't know what to
season,
do with it.
there was a thing in TV Guide, and they were talking to the writers, and they said America was complaining that it was too confusing to follow.
I don't think it was. I think it got even more confusing.
That's what I felt, yeah.
After the first season, once they started to make all those changes, I could not follow the third and fourth season at all.
Well, the last season ended with the cheerleader joining the circus.
It just became
She became a carny.
too complex between exactly what was. It was just so stupid and very confusing the way they were writing it.
Mohinder, I hated him. Why don't you pick a story?
Let's see. I kind of want to talk about this Twitter Music stuff because this is really interesting the way they announced this. They actually announced Twitter has had their music service or some sort of music service rumored for quite a while now, and they finally did come out after they bought a service called We Are Hunted, and so now basically We Are Hunted is now Twitter Music. But the way they announced this is very fascinating because they actually went on a Good Day LA or Good Day Morning Show or whatever it was, and announced it on the morning show, the Good Day Morning Show, and I thought that was very unusual that they would actually go there to announce something like that.
So the way that it works is it ranks.
There's an iPhone app and there's the web interface that you can log into. I don't think there's an Android app right now or a Windows 8 application.
But how is it
so
ranking
far.
it? It's ranking it based on how many people are discussing it on Twitter.
Yeah, I think it works on the same principle as trends, but it also weights in, factors from your friends. Are your friends interested as well?
I guess. I mean, Twitter has an organic user base, and I guess people use hashtags. So why wouldn't you use the service to kind of figure out what the top 100 songs are?
Yeah, I can agree with that, but then again, I also see this almost as, oh, great, here's yet another website trying to get in on the whole music craze of people out there. And it's just like, all right, well, what's going to be so different about this? Why should I use it? Why should I care about it? Because there's already so many other music services. And in a way, this really doesn't compete with anything in a sense where it doesn't replace Spotify. It doesn't replace Pandora or
Here it is.
any of those other music services out there. This is just simply, what are your friends listening to? What are people on Twitter listening to?
Maroon 5 is #1 song right now. Love Somebody. I mean, it's a nice, quick way to tell the top songs, but what happens if you want to buy it? So let's say I click on Maroon 5. So it plays it, and then you could buy it on iTunes. So, okay. I mean, not bad. I don't hate it. I've seen a lot of these other music services that I really haven't cared about, but
Yeah, I'm very indifferent about how I like it. I mean, it's there, I guess, for the people that want to use it. That's fine, but
Yeah, I don't know. Apple is looking to get into a budget iPhone. We've discussed this for a couple times, and now there are images that are surfacing of this budget iPhone. What do you think of it, John?
I don't even know if this is real. I mean, come on, this is Apple we're talking about. There's an Apple rumor. There's 20 Apple rumors every single day, and this is something that's been rumored for 2 years now. Is this low budget iPhone? So I don't even know if this is real until Apple actually announced it. I don't really know that I can believe anything that I see out there regarding a low budget iPhone.
I mean, doesn't it make more sense for them to do that than to have the previous generation on the market? Like, I think a perfect example of a budget iPad or iPhone is the iPad. If they had a budget iPad instead of having, the iPad 2 and the new iPad on the market, I think it would make a lot more sense, and you would kind of be able to control the user experience a little bit better than having all these people on a really crappy experience and have all these people with a really great experience, because I don't think the iPad 2 experience is good at all at this point.
Well, they did a really weird thing where they killed off the iPad 3, but they stayed with the iPad 2 as a lower model.
Yeah.
Was really weird.
Here's an image of the budget iPhone, the case. It's a little thicker. I don't know. I don't know what they would do with this. Do you think they need to have something like this?
I'm wondering how much of this actually factors into them wanting to sell more to other countries besides just, where it's popular right now.
Just some of the
North
rumors.
America, United Kingdom.
The alleged budget iPad will have an A5 processor like the iPad mini with a 3.5-inch Retina display. So it's going to have the iPhone 4S display. They've also discovered the factory producing the secret project is confirming that the device will be available in black, white, blue, red, and yellow.
I think that's going to be kind of cool. I mean, people have been wanting some sort of color case to begin with. They don't necessarily want a case, but they want the iPhone to be in some sort of color.
I don't know. I think it's a good idea. They have a $99 iPhone, a $199 iPhone, and you got, this is the cheaper iPhone, and this is the expensive iPhone. It's a different experience on both, rather than having an older device on the market. I don't like the fact that they have the older device on the market, and they don't do that with any other product line. They've never done that. This is something new that they're doing, and they brought it up to the MacBooks now, where the MacBook has the Retina and the non-Retina and the 13-inch and the 15. They really screwed it up, in my opinion. I really think they screwed it up, and they kind of have to control this and have not this new old thing.
This is Apple. It could be something that propels them even farther. I mean, this might be one of those things where everybody actually really wants this.
I think with the iPad is a perfect example where they could have a Retina and a non-Retina for both the mini and the regular sized one. And people would be interested in either or. I think a lot of people really don't care about the Retina. Well, I guess no. Yeah. You know what? No, that doesn't make sense either, because guess what? They're going to a Retina standard for everything. So that doesn't even make sense. So that's not going to happen. I don't know. I really don't know. What can they do with the budget, and what are they going to do with the next iPad? That's my question. I could kind of see what they're doing with everything else, but let me ask you, John, what do you think they should do with the next iPad? I'm not talking about
as good as mine. I mean, it's
I'm not talking about the iPad 5.
No, it's Apple.
I'm not talking about the next generation iPad. I'm talking about what are they going to do for the cheaper alternative to buying an iPad? Are they going to still have the iPad 2 on the market, or are they going to say, "How would it?"
They could just say there's. I don't know. They could just say the iPad Mini is the cheaper, lower cost version.
I think that's a good idea. I don't think they should be selling the iPad 2.
I don't think at this point. No, I mean, I don't understand why they're selling the iPad 2 over the iPad 3. It really doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I don't know. Pick a story, John. I like to do the swap thing
again.
Yeah. You pick one.
I want to get your thoughts on this other Twitter story that we have about it having the. They announced that Twitter and BBC America reached the first in-tweet branded video deal for a TV series. Supposedly, I don't really know. Nobody really knows how this is going to work. Twitter Music has been revealed, and now there's potential TV integration. Appears that BBC America will be among the first to participate. The network, which is owned by BBC Worldwide and Discovery Communications, sent out a tweet saying it's signed up to offer first in-tweet branded videos synced to entertainment TV series. But nobody really knows what this really means. Like, are they going to be able to change the course of what we're watching on TV by what people are saying on Twitter, or
they're dying, and this is what TV is dying to do. This second screen experience with Twitter and all these other social media, because they've realized that people get up and they leave during commercials, so that's not good for an ad at all. But if they could get you still to sit in front of the TV and just look down at your iPad and do whatever you're doing, I think that's what they're all realizing. And tweet branding and having some sort of user interaction is really the way to go with keeping people there. It does sound similar to what Viacom and NBC were rumored to do a few days ago.
Yeah.
So it seems like they're doing the same kind of deal also. I don't know how they could do it.
I'm very curious as to what they're going to be doing and how they're going to integrate, because we've already seen a lot of channels out there. They'll scroll tweets, live tweets during programs. So, but I think, are they just going to take those tweets and actually, create program from it?
They're saying it's going to bring more content about what the users are discussing is key to the new strategy.
Or is it just going to be like
short
they're going to have a director
clips
providing commentary?
No, it says short TV clips to fit into the idea perfectly. So I don't know what exactly that means. You know what's amazing?
Nobody does. It's very, very nonchalant in general. Like, well, what is it exactly that we're going to get from this?
I'm amazed that Twitter's still around and they're doing well. Because if you look at them, they really, like, we know Facebook makes money from a lot of the ads, but
say
Twitter
the same
really.
thing about Facebook.
Well, Facebook, you could see the ads. You could see how they're making a lot of money. Twitter, until recently,
Facebook ads. It's so annoying.
Oh, they've gotten obscene. It's obscenely invasive at this point.
There's actually a rumor now that Facebook this summer is going to start having autoplay ads in your news feeds, like 15-second ads that automatically play in your news feed.
Have you gotten that message? People have been sending me emails telling me that if they try to message someone outside of their, I guess, friend list, it tells them it requires $1. You have to pay $1 to message the person.
That's weird.
And at first I thought it was a joke and it was just one of these rumors that's going around, but it seems like it's a real thing, and more people are telling me that they're getting this message, telling them to give up $1 to kind of message someone. It's so bizarre, so weird. I don't even know what to make of it.
I've seen that before, and I think it's just Facebook is now in that position where they're just trying to do anything and everything for money. They're just being so freaking greedy.
I want to go into one more story, and then I want to go into our picks, because I think our pick segment is going to be a little longer today. Dish Network bids $25.5 billion for Sprint, and now it's going head-to-head with SoftBank. People were very excited to hear SoftBank was kind of interested, and now it seems like Dish Network is interested. And I know Dish has been itching to become a phone company in their arsenal of content. What do you make of this? Do you think there's going to be a bidding war and that's going to go up?
Good,
Yeah, I mean, this is great, but who do you? I'm curious how this is going to fall out, because Sprint is not doing too well, and they need a lifeline. Which one is going to be the lifeline that saves them? Is it going to be Dish, or is it going to be SoftBank?
Here's what comes to mind when I think about Dish buying anybody is, you remember they bought Blockbuster.
Yeah.
Where's Blockbuster now? And this is my whole problem with Dish trying to buy anybody. It's like they've, in a way, shown to me that they're incapable of buying something that's failing and turning it around. So if Dish is successful in grabbing Sprint from SoftBank, what are they going to do with it? Is it just going to become another Blockbuster failure for them?
Yeah. I don't know. I think Dish. I kind of think Dish would be able to do something with them. package, do TV and do whatever, and make it more of a all-in-one service. I think Sprint needs something like that. We're seeing, the big two. Okay, AT&T and Verizon, they're competing, but you look at a company like
that
T-Mobile.
they could offer more like satellite programming to your phone through the deal, but really, I just don't see that happening because of just the absolute failure of what they'd had with Blockbuster.
Yeah, that kind of fell apart. Now I'm thinking about it, that really fell apart.
Where's Blockbuster now? It's dead.
Yeah.
Great. So you're going to scoop up Sprint, and Sprint's going to become dead because you're incapable of turning it around.
You know what's amazing? Blockbuster was not able to turn it around, and they gave up such a gigantic business. I mean, they were a known brand. People knew it. People went to them. They had a huge user base. And Netflix single-handedly destroyed them, and Redbox single-handedly destroyed them. I mean, insane how they lost every possible business that they could have had. They were, I mean, there was a Blockbuster in every blog, and now they're all gone. And in the place of Blockbuster, there's a Redbox.
Yep.
There's a little
Absolutely.
thing where you put in money and you get a DVD, and you don't worry about it. I mean, it totally changed.
It's so much easier to have a Redbox there instead of a Blockbuster.
Well, isn't it fascinating that Verizon went with Redbox, and this is something that Blockbuster could have done, and they would have gotten a great deal, but they're not even considered at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, they really. I'm trying to go to their website. Let's say Blockbuster. Yeah, I mean, they're still in business. They're just
business. They got to be losing money.
Yeah, first 2 months, 50% off. I guess they're doing monthly payments. I don't know. Who knows? God only knows how well they're doing. I don't.
I in a way, I still think SoftBank is in a way a better deal for them because they're actually going to be able to make the network improvements that they need. I think from SoftBank, because if you remember, the CEO was pretty serious about exactly what he wanted to do with Sprint, and is actually make it into a good, solid third place carrier, and possibly even a contender for second place.
Do you think there's going to be? I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm curious because Sprint needs to do something. They have a better positioning with Dish, in my opinion, because they're able to offer something with their service. Like T-Mobile, was
but
doing
Dish
unsubsidized.
Actually going to be able to bring Sprint into competition with AT&T and Verizon, and I'm very uncertain that they could do that. Whereas SoftBank, I think because they actually have more experience in that sort of field, that they could possibly do that.
Yeah, I don't know. I hate Sprint. I mean, it's just utterly useless. It does not work ever here. T-Mobile too. T-Mobile doesn't work either, but nothing works. John, I want to do our picks, and the reason why I want to do our picks is because mine's going to be a little longer, and I want you to ask me a couple questions with my pick.
Okay.
So I want you to go first with your pick of the week. This is the point that we edit everything out, and I'm going to pull it up. And let's go to the pick.
I never edit anything.
You don't? Okay.
No. You always tell me edit, and I'm like, why?
Just say yes. I won't even know.
Yes.
John, what is your pick?
No,
of
you
the
don't.
week?
You never watch anything.
No, I don't watch anything. I just let you decide my entire future. Go into your pick.
All right, so my pick of the week is a CPU cooler that I got about a month ago. It's called the Zigmatech Gaia SD1283. It's kind of a weird name, and I'm not really exactly sure about this brand, but it's actually a really nice CPU cooler. This computer that I've now made into one of my primary machines, it had the stock CPU cooler on it. It was just ungodly loud. And this is a machine that I know that Andrew's heard through my microphone before because it's obscenely loud. Like it was like 70 decibels just when it was
very
on
loud.
Because it was always on full blast, and it was just I couldn't stand to have my computer on for more than 5 or 10 minutes because the fan on this CPU was just so loud. But then I got this. This is only $20, by the way. $20, and it is amazing. It does exactly what I want it to do. It cools my CPU, and it's also extremely quiet. And this is something that I particularly was looking for, is for something that was going to be very effective in cooling and also very quiet. And this meets both of those needs. Before, I was running a AMD Phenom 2 something in here, and it was supposed to be no more than 62 degrees Celsius. But overclocked, it was hitting like 75. I've got this in here now, and I'm actually able to use SpeedFan to actually reduce the speed of the fan because it's so cool. It's at maybe 33 degrees idle. It's probably less than that. It's really cool. It works with pretty much virtually all modern CPU sockets out there. All Intel Core i3, i5, i7, Athlon 64FX X2, Phenoms, Athlon, Opteron, Sempron, Core 2 Duos, all that stuff. Virtually any modern CPU socket that you have out here, this will work for it. My only complaints with this is the fact that the instructions weren't exactly the greatest. I kind of had to figure out a few things on my own because even though that they had some pictures and some words, they kind of glossed over some of the steps that were actually very important in figuring out how to put this all together. But overall, it's a very good. It does exactly what I needed to do, and it's very cheap. I didn't want to spend a whole lot of money, and this fit within my budget perfectly. It's only $20, and if you're an Amazon Prime member and you get it through our Amazon Prime account, you can actually get free shipping, which is really cool. So it's $20, free shipping, and it's one of the best CPU coolers that I've ever used.
Very, very cool, John. I'm excited for that pick.
Yeah, we'll have a link in our notes, and it's the Zigmatech Gaia SD1283.
So my pick this week is more of a review rather than a pick. I've decided that I'm going to review stuff also for the pick of the week. And this week I had a chance. I got the HTC One, the new HTC One, which I believe got released today.
Wait, which one?
The
One
new.
X?
The
One
new.
X Plus?
No, the new HTC One. And I realized that is the marketing they're going with. It is called the new HTC One, like the new iPad or the new iPhone. They are the new HTC One, not to be confused with the older HTC One X Plus that I have here. That was sent to me by mistake, which I'm gonna play around with this later on. But this phone came out today.
I gotta tell you, it looks really nice on camera.
It is a beautiful phone, and I have a closer shot here of the phone. Beautiful phone. You could tell that a lot of effort went into the design of this phone.
Look at how thin that is.
It is very thin. Let me see if I can hold it up. So pretty thin, really pretty device. It feels like a really good quality device. I mean, when you're holding this thing in your hand, it actually feels like, wow, okay, a lot of effort went into the quality. This is the older HTC One X Plus. I don't know how old it is. A couple months. It's not too old, but you could tell that they really upped the quality. When you feel this feels like every other Android phone on the market. This actually feels like it's a special phone. Some of the specs on the phone: 4.7-inch screen, 1080p video. You know, all the standards that everybody has. So I'm going to show you some of the interface on this thing. So you power it on. You can see the Sense UI, the new Sense HTC Sense on here. Swipe up, and you automatically, by default, it gives you, the weather up here, but it also gives you these little news clips. So you set it up depending on what you like, and it keeps you up to date. This is part of the Sense UI for them. Scroll side to side, much like every other Android device. I do like in the Sense UI that when you click on the app button, you scroll rather than going left to right, which I like. And their icon, the grid is laid out a little bit different. Okay camera. I had a chance to play around with the camera. Nothing amazing. I wasn't blown away by it. In some scenarios, it was okay. Low light, it was okay, but the macro feature, not that great. And I'm comparing it to, let's see, the BlackBerry, which had a phenomenal macro feature on this thing. Everything else, I mean, sound quality sounds really good. They're using Beats Audio on this, so you're getting a decent speaker on here to play music. Now, some of the downsides, some of the bad things with this, it is running an older version of Android. Do not understand why they do this. I was very surprised when I got it.
What version it is?
4.1.2 compared to 4.2.2. which is the latest version of Android that things like the Galaxy Note and the Galaxy S4 have. The Galaxy S4 will have 4.2.2. This has 4.1.2. That, to me, is a major turnoff. I'm actually quite disappointed in it. Now, I'm not able to make any calls because I have a problem with the SIM. So all my experience on this has been Wi-Fi. Other than, I'm kind of in the middle with this thing, John, and I'll tell you why. I feel that the phone is a beautiful phone, and it is a very special phone, and you could tell this is a flagship phone. This is a higher-end Android phone. When you pick it up, you feel it. Display is beautiful too, by the way. Really, really.
It looks great on camera.
And that was the first thing that I saw. But the big problem that I have with this is that it's not running the latest version of Android. I actually don't hate the Sense UI, which I'm one of these people that always says pure Android, pure Android. I think they've done a decent job with the Sense UI. I think it's pretty, but because it's running an older version of Android, I don't know if I would personally use this as my everyday phone. And the camera is okay, not that amazing. I thought the BlackBerry's camera performed at a better rate, and I don't know about the Galaxy S4, but there was nothing that stood out about the camera for me.
How about using the touch keyboard on there and sending emails?
Yes, I do not like the touch keyboard.
Why not?
I didn't like the stock touch keyboard. Of course, you could. I just wiped this out, so let me go to the keyboard here. I felt the letters were too close. I kept hitting the wrong letters every time I was typing, compared to what I've used with on Samsung and what I've used with even like SwiftKey and even on the BlackBerry. I think it's a little too tight for me when I'm typing on here, and it's not as intelligent as some of the other keyboards out on the market. I just wasn't crazy about it. But it is the best phone HTC has ever made, in my opinion. It is a very pretty phone. I'm going to give it some more time. I've only had it for a couple days, obviously, and I haven't really used it as my everyday phone, but I spent some time with it, and I'm in the middle with this. I don't necessarily think it's the best Android phone on the market. I would go with the Samsung over this one, but that may change in a week when I'm using it. It's like, wow, I've been using it a lot more. But the screen on this thing, just let me tell you, it's 468 ppi, so it's a very
wow.
Yeah.
Do you know what the resolution is on that?
1080, 12. I believe 1080? It's 1080. Yeah.
Wow.
So compared to let's
impressive.
say like the Samsung S4, which is going to be 441 ppi. So it's a very, very, it just stunningly beautiful display on this. But, overall design, really good. Display, beautiful. Battery life, again, I can't comment on that because I don't have the actual SIM card working properly. But from just using Wi-Fi in the house, as my phone, I'm doing Skype calls on this thing. I'm doing everything that I would normally do on my phone. It's a beautiful phone. It's an okay phone. Personally, it's not for me. I would go with the S4. I would actually go with an S3 over this one. I'll be honest. In an Android phone. So, are you surprised? You seem a little surprised.
A little bit, but then again, it is HTC, and they are known for, the Galaxy S3 from Samsung is just one heck of a phone. A lot of people do like that one.
I'll tell you, I picked it up. I said, wow, this is great. This is a great phone. It looks great. I was very disappointed in the camera, like I am with every other camera that's in an Android phone. The Sense UI is pretty cool, but nothing really, I don't know. It's missing something, and I think that something is that probably the camera.
So the two biggest issues that you have with it right now are the fact that the keyboard is kind of small and the camera.
I'm not crazy for the keyboard. I'm not crazy about the camera, and I don't like that it's running an older version of Android. I think that's crazy. I don't understand why that still happens. Why are you running 4.1 when you should be running 4.2? I don't know. So that's my review or pick of the week of this the HTC One. But beautiful design. I mean, this is very well built. It is a very well built phone. I think it falls a little short with the camera and the operating system. So that's my pick. We're all sad now. I think you get very upset when I don't like something. You get very upset and you're very surprised when I don't like something.
Well, you want me to be excited that you don't like it?
No, I think you get a little sad because I'm so happy and I like this. I'm like, oh my god, the new BlackBerry. Almost every phone I've gotten in here, I've loved. This is the first time I'm not in love with the phone. Not in love with it. And people think I'm crazy because everybody's praising this and saying how great it is and how amazing it is. I think it looks beautiful. It's a beautiful phone, probably one of the best designed phones right now in the market.
I think the same thing when it comes to the Galaxy S3. I don't understand why people like that.
Yeah,
I really don't.
Listen,
any Android, really, I find a hard time understanding why people like it.
Yeah. So that was my pick of the week, John. And that's it.
Cool.
We're wrapping up. Again, if you miss any portion of the show, go to our website, gfknetwork.com. You can catch all our shows there. We have a plethora of shows in all different categories. And remember, guys, subscribe to us. I encourage and I demand it and I threaten you to subscribe. If you don't subscribe, Suncast does not get fed when I'm in Los Angeles and he has to starve for 4 days. And that's a fact, right, John?
It is.
Yeah, see?
That's why you should all go to netflix.com/GFQ.
Yes. You know what? We forgot it today. It's okay.
We did.
It's okay. We'll do it next week. John, any plugs at Suncast on Twitter? You can follow him there. Anything else?
And also go to netflix.com/GFQ so I can get fed.
Yes. Netflix.com/GFQ. And you can follow me on Twitter at Andrew Zarian. And we'll see you all next week on Tech News Weekly. Good night, everybody.